Dreams of the sky. The world outside Yuri's window was a muted canvas of white and gray, soft flakes drifting from a sky that promised endless depths. He traced a finger along the frosty pane, his breath misting the glass. It wasn't the snow that captivated him, but the vast, empty expanse above it. He imagined his father, a fleeting shadow against the clouds, streaking across that very sky in a powerful jet. The roar of engines, a sound he only knew from stories and the distant echoes from the nearby airbase, was a symphony in his mind. His village, nestled in the quiet embrace of the Russian winter, felt small and contained compared to the boundless freedom of flight. He closed his eyes, picturing himself at the controls, the horizon tilting, the world unfolding beneath him like a crumpled map. Hours later, the snow still fell, but Yuri was immersed in a different world. Scattered across his worn wooden desk were pages from well-thumbed flight manuals, their diagrams of aerodynamic principles and engine schematics speaking a language he was slowly but surely mastering. Beside them, delicate balsa wood and glue transformed into miniature versions of the very aircraft he dreamed of piloting. His fingers, usually steady and precise, worked with a focused intensity, shaping wings and fuselages, each model a tangible step towards his ambition. He understood the elegance of design, the physics of lift and thrust, the intricate ballet of man and machine. Years later, the crisp snap of the parade ground banner was music to Yuri's ears. The sun, a brilliant disk in a sky as clear as crystal, glinted off the polished badges on his chest. The wings, pinned with ceremony and pride, felt heavier than their metal suggested, carrying the weight of his dreams and the promise of a future forged in the air. He stood taller, his uniform crisp, his gaze steady on the horizon where real jets now carved trails. He was a pilot, no longer just a boy who dreamed of the sky, but a man ready to claim his place within it. His first assignment after graduation took him to a training squadron, a cacophony of roaring engines and ambitious young men. It was there he met Alexei Petrov, a whirlwind of boisterous laughter and unshakable confidence. "They call me Hawk," Alexei declared, extending a hand that swallowed Yuri's. "Because I see everything, and I go for the kill. You, on the other hand, look like you're still working out the square root of your engine's thrust." Yuri offered a small, knowing smile. "It's a useful calculation, Alexei, especially when you need to conserve fuel." Alexei snorted. "Fuel is for bureaucrats. A real pilot trusts his gut, his eyes, and the power beneath his hands. These newfangled automatic controls they keep talking about? Give me pure muscle and instinct any day." He thumped Yuri's shoulder, a playful but firm gesture. "You look like you think too much. We'll have to knock that out of you in the air." Despite their contrasting approaches, a quick, almost instinctive camaraderie sparked between them. Yuri admired Alexei's audacious spirit, his sheer joy in flight, while Alexei, beneath his bluster, recognized the quiet competence and profound understanding Yuri possessed. They were two halves of a powerful whole, ready to face the challenges of the sky, each in their own way. The boundless blue awaited them. First patrol, a glimpse of the unknown. The sharp click of the canopy securing was a familiar sound, a prelude to the engine's rising song. Yuri's gloved fingers brushed the cool metal of the control stick, the MiG-21 cockpit, his second skin. Beside him, Alexei, ever theatrical, offered a thumbs up, his grin evident even through the visor. "First joint patrol, Volkov. Don't get lost in the wide-open blue." Yuri chuckled, pre-flight checks crackling through the comms. "Just try to keep up, Petrov. Wouldn't want you missing the sunset." Their twin power plants roared to life, a deep rumble vibrating through the airframe. The MiG surged forward, a gray streak against the snow-dusted runway, then soared skyward, climbing steeply into the pale morning. Below, the jagged coastline shrank, yielding to the vast, undulating expanse of the Barents Sea. The water formed a stunning mosaic of deep sapphire and steely gray, catching the nascent sun in 1,000 glittering facets. It was a beautiful, desolate realm, and for a few peaceful moments, only the rhythmic thrum of their engines disrupted the quiet. "Clear skies and smooth sailing, eh, Yuri?" Alexei's voice was calm now, youthful bravado hushed by the immense tranquility of the upper atmosphere. "Indeed, Yuri agreed, his gaze sweeping the horizon, then descending to the radar screen. A faint, almost imperceptible blip caught his eye. He leaned closer, a frown creasing his brow. Hold on. I'm seeing something. Alexei's tone sharpened instantly. Contact. Where? Bearing 270, range 40 kilometers. Fast, very fast. Yuri adjusted the gain, his brow furrowing deeper. Unidentified. It's not on any known flight plan. The blip was minuscule, yet its trajectory was undeniable. It sped directly towards them, closing the distance at an alarming rate. Let's go say hello, Alexei declared, his competitive spirit resurfacing. He advanced his throttle, the MiG responding instantly, a surge of G-force pressing Yuri into his seat. The radar blip expanded, then suddenly, it materialized. Not on their screen, but in their field of vision. A sleek, delta-winged silhouette, unlike anything Yuri had ever witnessed. It was a silver blur, a phantom against the deep azure, leaving no discernible vapor trail. What in the world? He breathed, utterly captivated. F-106. Alexei's voice blended awe and aggression. American. And look at her go. The F-106, a Convair Delta Dart, possessed impossible speed, shark-like grace, and a single, massive engine that seemed to defy the very concept of drag. It wove through the sky, a ballet of precision and power, effortlessly eluding their attempts to close the gap. Yuri, a natural engineering enthusiast, watched in silent wonder, a new seed blossoming in his mind, respect, and a profound curiosity. This was more than just a rival aircraft. It was a glimpse into a future he hadn't imagined. Then, as swiftly as it had appeared, the F-106 banked sharply, accelerated with a burst that seemed to defy physics, and dissolved into the distant haze. The radar screen cleared, leaving only the boundless, empty blue. The commander's briefing. The fluorescent lights of the debriefing room hummed, casting a stark glow on Commander Ivanova's unsmiling face. Yuri stood beside Alexei, the low thrum of the bass a distant counterpoint to the rapid beat of his heart. He recounted their encounter, every detail of the sleek, delta-winged interceptor, its impossible speed, and the chilling, unpiloted precision of its return. Alexei, usually prone to exaggeration, kept his narrative surprisingly factual, his boisterous energy subdued by the sheer strangeness of what they had witnessed. Ivanova listened, her gaze sharp and unwavering. An unmanned return, you say, Petrov? You're certain it wasn't simply a recovery drone? Commander, it performed evasive maneuvers, Alexei insisted, a hint of his usual fire returning. It climbed like a rocket. No drone could have flown like that, not with such conviction. Yuri nodded. And the speed, Commander. It was unlike anything I have ever observed. Our MiG-19s were struggling to keep pace, even in a dive. He saw a flicker of something in Ivanova's eyes, not disbelief, but a dawning, unwelcome recognition. Later, in the main briefing room, the air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and nervous anticipation. The entire squadron was present, rows of pilots in their flight suits, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Ivanova stood before a large projection screen, a grim set to her jaw. Pilots, she began, her voice crisp and clear. Volkov and Petrov reported an encounter yesterday with an American interceptor. What they described was not a phantom. We have confirmed intelligence. A ripple went through the room. On the screen, an image materialized. A sleek, silver aircraft, its delta wings swept back sharply, a distinctive red tail, flash prominent. This, gentlemen, is the American F-106 Delta Dart. Its primary role is air defense, and it is designed for extreme speed and altitude. She tapped a pointer on the image. It's powered by a Pratt & Whitney J75 engine, capable of pushing it to Mach 2.3. That's significantly faster than anything we currently field, including our MiG-21s. A collective murmur rose. Yuri felt a strange mix of awe and a cold knot of dread. This was not just faster, it was a different breed of machine. But the most concerning aspect, Ivanova continued, her gaze sweeping across the room, is its advanced navigation and control system. The Americans claim it can be guided by ground control, even to the point of executing an automatic landing. A sharp intake of breath from one of the younger pilots. Alexei snorted, a low, skeptical sound. Automatic landing? What? Does it make its own T2, Commander? Ivanova's eyes briefly flickered to Alexei, but she didn't chastise him. It seems, Petrov, that it can. This technology, known as the Hughes MA-1 Integrated Fire Control System, is highly sophisticated. It allows for intercept computations, target tracking, and indeed, autonomous flight phases. Yuri felt a jolt. This was the explanation for the impossible return. Not just a fast plane, but a smart one. The implications were staggering. It wasn't just a battle of pilot skill anymore. It was human against machine, and the machine was learning to fly itself. A shiver ran down his spine, a thrill of understanding, and a profound unease. The future of aerial combat had just taken an unsettling, technological leap. Seeking the Delta Dart. The briefing room thrummed with a nervous, low-pitched energy. Yuri, balanced precariously on the edge of a well-worn chair, felt the familiar surge of anticipation for flight. The previous encounter with the F-106 had ignited a persistent, gnawing curiosity, leaving him with more questions than answers. When Major Sorokin solicited volunteers for the next patrol, Yuri's hand shot up, an impulsive reflex. Alexei, never one to miss a moment in the spotlight, was a breath behind him, a wide, challenging grin splitting his face. Ready to chase some phantoms, Volkov? He clapped Yuri on the shoulder as they moved towards their awaiting MiGs. Ready to unravel their secrets, Petrov, Yuri corrected, his mind already cycling through pre-flight sequences. We'll need to be swifter this time. Exceed our usual bounds. Alexei scoffed, adjusting his helmet. Bounds? My bounds are wherever I decide they are, Volkov. We'll stick close, strive for a clearer view. No reckless stunts, just meticulous observation. Yet, his tone hinted at a distinct dare. The guttural roar of the Tamansky engines devoured the morning quiet as they taxied. The sky overhead, an immense, unbroken canvas of azure, betrayed a deceptive serenity. Yuri experienced the potent thrust as his MiG-21 clawed skyward, the world shrinking into a distant tableau. Their patrol described a wide, sweeping arc across the designated intercept zone. An hour bled into the next, the radio a constant, hushed murmur of routine reports. Just as Yuri began to suspect the Americans had chosen to remain grounded, Alexei's voice crackled, taut with excitement, through his headset. Contact. 2 bogies, 11 o'clock high, closing rapidly. Delta wings, just as before. Yuri's gaze instantly scoured the horizon. 2 distant pinpricks rapidly expanded, resolving into the unmistakable, aggressive profile of F-106 Delta Darts. Their approach exuded an almost arrogant confidence. Engaging intercept profile, Yuri announced, shoving the throttle forward. Let's discover their true capabilities. He banked sharply, striving to mirror the F-106's initial vector. The lead American jet, a sleek silver arrow, executed a flawless, high-G turn with unsettling grace. Yuri gritted his teeth, yanking back on the stick, the crushing forces pinning him deep into his seat. The MiG-21 shrieked in protest, its airframe groaning under the strain, but he clung to the turn, refusing to lose sight. Alexei, a few hundred meters to his left, visibly struggled, his MiG's vapor trails appearing more frayed. The F-106, meanwhile, simply accelerated. It wasn't an abrupt, jarring burst, but an unrelenting, silken surge of power that left Yuri feeling as if he were fighting through thick treacle. He pushed his own engine to its absolute maximum. The afterburner a scorching inferno behind him, yet the gap between them stubbornly widened. The American jet peeled away with an almost dismissive ease, a silent testament to its superior engineering. Frustration simmered within Yuri. He was no longer merely observing. He was pursuing, and the chase felt utterly futile. The Delta Dart became a diminishing glint, then a fleeting memory, dissolving back into the boundless blue. They're gone, aren't they? Alexei's voice was tinged with uncharacteristic awe, a rare concession of defeat. Yuri exhaled slowly, his hands still clenched around the controls. Gone. And impossibly fast, Alexei. Far, far swifter than we could ever hope to be. The words hung heavy in the air, a stark, unwelcome realization of their technological disadvantage. The empty sky ghost. The sky, a vast, indifferent canvas, held the familiar dance of their patrol. Yuri, his gaze sharp as a hawk's, scanned the horizon. Beside him, Alexei, ever restless, hummed a tuneless song, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on his joystick. Suddenly, a flicker caught Yuri's eye. "Hawk, look! Delta Dart at 11 o'clock, losing altitude." Alexei stopped his drumming. Another hotshot American showing off, probably trying to impress his ground crew. But even as he scoffed, his voice held a trace of concern. The F-106, usually a sleek predator, was trailing a thin wisp of smoke, a telltale sign of distress. Its movements became erratic, a series of lurches and dives that suggested a losing battle with gravity. "He's in trouble," Yuri stated, the words clipped. The situation, usually a source of competitive glee for Alexei, now hung heavy between them. A pilot in distress, regardless of nationality, commanded a shared respect. Then, a sudden jolt. A flash of orange bloomed from the struggling jet, a tiny figure rocketing upwards, propelled by an explosive charge. The American pilot, a bright speck against the pale blue, was clear. His parachute blossomed, a stark white mushroom against the sky, drifting serenely towards the distant, snow-capped peaks. "He ejected," Alexei exclaimed, a mix of awe and relief in his voice. "Good for him. Smart move." But then, an impossible thing happened. The F-106, now a silent, empty shell, didn't plummet. It didn't spin wildly out of control. Instead, with a peculiar, almost deliberate grace, it leveled out. The smoke, though still present, seemed to diminish. The Delta Dart, a ghost of its former self, continued its flight. Yuri stared, transfixed, his mind grappling with what his eyes were seeing. The plane, devoid of human guidance, was still flying. It was an affront to everything he knew about aviation, a defiance of the very laws of physics. It's still flying," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the roar of their engines. Alexei's boisterous nature was, for once, silenced. His jaw hung slightly agape, his brow furrowed in utter disbelief. What in the name of all that's holy?" he muttered. "It should be a hunk of scrap metal by now." The F-106, the empty sky ghost, as Yuri silently dubbed it, began a slow, majestic turn. Not a sharp, aggressive maneuver, but a gentle, sweeping arc that brought its nose steadily towards the west, towards its home base, towards American territory. Yuri felt a prickle of unease, a cold sensation that had nothing to do with the altitude. This wasn't just a plane flying itself. This was a machine making a decision, a machine going home. The implications sent a shiver down his spine. He exchanged a glance with Alexei, whose usual bravado was replaced by a look of profound, almost childlike wonder. The sky, which had always been a domain of human skill and daring, suddenly felt larger, more mysterious, and infinitely more unsettling. Unbelievable report. The MiG-21s touched down with a jolting thud, a physical echo of the turmoil in Yuri's chest. The landing, a blur of practiced motions, dissolved into the biting, cool air, a stark contrast to the burning confusion in his mind. Alexei, typically agile, now moved with an uncharacteristic hesitation, his helmet tucked under his arm as he trudged toward the debriefing hut. Inside, the heavy scent of stale coffee and machine oil clung to the air. Commander Ivanova presided at the head of a long, chipped table, her gaze as sharp and unforgiving as a winter gale. Sergeant Major Boris Orlov, a man whose hands always seemed to bear a film of grease, regardless of how recently he'd scrubbed them, leaned against a filing cabinet, a half-empty mug cradled in his calloused fingers. "Report," Ivanova commanded, her voice slicing through the silence. Yuri began, his words measured, precise, detailing the patrol, the intercept, the F-106. He described the American pilot's ejection, the aircraft's subsequent course correction, an impossible flight path. Alexei interjected, his voice louder, more animated, adding details about the complete lack of human input. "It flew itself, Commander," as if a phantom guided it. Ivanova's eyebrows, usually a rigid line of authority, furrowed. "A phantom, Petrov? Are you suggesting sorcery?" Her tone dripped with disbelief, a hint of steel. Boris grunted from his corner. Sounds like too much kvass before a morning patrol. Planes don't simply fly themselves home. Not unless someone's still at the stick. He pushed away from the cabinet, walking to the table. Did you clearly see the American pilot eject, Volkov? Without a doubt, Sergeant Major. Yuri confirmed, meeting Boris's skeptical gaze. He was gone. We both witnessed it. Then it's either a trick of the light, a malfunction in your own sensors, or a very elaborate hoax. Ivanova stated, her fingers drumming a slow, deliberate rhythm on the tabletop. Aircraft do not defy the laws of physics, gentlemen. Not even capitalist ones. But Commander, its maneuvers, they were incredibly precise. Flawless, Yuri insisted, his brow furrowed in concentration. No human could have maintained that kind of flight after an ejection. The G-forces alone. Perhaps an automated recovery system, a pre-programmed flight plan activated by the ejection sequence. Boris mused, his skepticism warring with a nascent curiosity. He picked up a discarded wrench, turning it over in his hand. Though I've never encountered such a thing. Not without a pilot to monitor it. Ivanova pushed herself back from the table. This report is simply unbelievable. Unbelievable. I want every sensor log, every communication recording, every scrap of data from your aircraft. I want a detailed, written account from both of you, cross-referenced and verified. And no more talk of ghosts, Petrov. We deal in facts, not fairy tales. Her gaze lingered on Yuri. Volkov, you're usually more grounded than this. Are you absolutely certain of what you saw? Yuri met her gaze, his expression unwavering. Commander, I saw what I saw. And it shatters everything I thought I knew about aviation. A new kind of wonder. Yuri's gaze lingered on the polished fuselage of his MiG-21, the afternoon sun a metallic gleam across its surface. His gloved hand, a familiar weight against the cool metal, now traced circuits and sensors, an unseen network of possibilities. The F-106, a phantom in the azure, more than just flight, an instinct for home. The thought stirred a profound, almost spiritual awe within him, a tremor unconnected to fear. Still admiring her, Volkov? Alexei's boisterous voice cut through the quiet hum of Yuri's contemplation. Alexei Hawk, Petrov ambled over, a half-eaten apple clutched in his hand, trying to figure out how to program her for dinner in the mess hall. Yuri turned, a thoughtful frown etched on his brow. More like trying to grasp the concept of such autonomy. Hawk. It wasn't a mere malfunction. It was a navigation system, an autopilot, a complex ballet of decisions enacted without human intervention. Alexei scoffed, crunching his apple. Propaganda, I tell you. A clever Yankee ruse. Likely a hidden drone pilot. Or a freak air current. Don't tell me you believe a hunk of metal possesses our kind of sentience, Yuri. But what if it can, in its own fashion? Yuri countered, his voice quiet, yet resolute. Not thought as we understand it, perhaps, but a logical, intricate sequence of operations. This isn't the old autopilot. This is a new marvel. Later, the mess hall buzzed with the same fervent discourse. The clatter of plates and the aroma of cabbage soup faded into the background as pilots huddled, voices rising and falling in animated debate. They say it touched down light as a feather, a young pilot exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. Nonsense. Pure dumb luck, another retorted. Commander Zoya Ivanova, usually reserved, observed intently from her table, her gaze sharp, missing nothing. Sergeant Major Orlov, typically immersed in the practicalities of engine oil and hydraulics, sat beside her, unusually subdued. Luck doesn't guide a plane home across hundreds of kilometers and set it down flawlessly, Yuri murmured to Alexei, his gaze sweeping the room. Not like that. Alexei merely shrugged, but the customary swagger in his eyes seemed slightly diminished. Even he, the staunchest skeptic, grappled with the implications. The incident was a chasm opening in their comprehension, revealing capabilities they had not dared to imagine for an aircraft. Yuri felt a profound shift within. The F-106, the ghost plane, wasn't simply an engineering feat, it was a harbinger. A glimpse into a future where the distinction between human and machine blurred, where aircraft transformed from mere vehicles into intelligent partners. A new kind of wonder, indeed, and it sent a thrilling shiver down his spine. He knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his bones, that their world in the cockpit would never be the same. Shared skies, shared dreams. The legend of the flying ghost plane solidified its place in the squadron's mess hall. Whispers of an aircraft, pilotless yet purposeful, navigating the skies with an eerie intelligence, fueled both awe and unease. Yuri, however, felt a different kind of stir. Hunched over a pad in the quiet hum of his quarters, he meticulously sketched, his pencil dancing across the paper. Wing profiles, fuselage contours, intricate diagrams of theoretical control surfaces, all flowed from his hand, inspired by the F-106's impossible autonomy. He wasn't just drawing. He was dissecting the future, trying to understand how a machine could possess such an uncanny semblance of will. Alexei, ever the whirlwind, burst in, smelling faintly of engine oil and triumph. Still trying to outsmart a ghost, Volkov? He chuckled, clapping Yuri on the shoulder. Forget it. Some things are just luck. Or perhaps a very drunk American mechanic. Yuri looked up, a thoughtful frown creasing his brow. Luck doesn't guide a damaged fighter home across miles of open sky, Alexei. It's engineering. Raw, brilliant engineering. He tapped his pencil against a drawing of a proposed automated landing gear system. Imagine the possibilities. What if our own aircraft could think? Alexei scoffed, grabbing an apple from Yuri's desk. Think. A machine thinks when I tell it to. We are the pilots, Yuri. Our hands, our eyes, our gut. That's what flies a plane, not some complex abacus. But even as he spoke, a flicker of curiosity, uncharacteristic for him, played in his eyes. He peered at Yuri's sketches. What's this then? A self-tying bootlace for a jet. It's about resilience, Yuri countered, a quiet fire in his voice. About pushing the boundaries of what's possible. If their engineers can achieve that, what can we achieve? It makes me respect not just the American pilots, but the minds behind their machines. The sheer audacity of their inventiveness. Commander Ivanova, observing her squadron from the mess hall's doorway, noticed the change. The initial shock and even fear had subsided, replaced by a tangible shift in perspective. Pilots who once boasted only of their own prowess now debated the intricacies of flight computers. The competitive edge remained, but it was now tempered with a newfound, almost reluctant, admiration for the technological adversary. She saw it in Yuri's focused intensity, in Alexei's slightly less dismissive tone. It was a subtle, yet profound, evolution. Later, under the vast, star-dusted canvas of the night sky, Yuri stood alone, gazing upward. The universe felt enormous, yet the distance between nations, between ideologies, seemed to shrink beneath the shared expanse. He thought of the anonymous American engineers, toiling in their workshops, just as Soviet engineers did, all driven by the same fundamental yearning, to conquer the air, to defy gravity, to fly. It wasn't about who flew higher or faster anymore. It was about the ingenuity, the shared, ancient dream of flight that connected them all, across borders, across the silence of the night. The F-106, the ghost plane, had not just flown home. It had delivered a profound lesson in the universal language of human aspiration. Flight forward. The Tamansky R-11's deep, guttural thrum, a familiar comfort, resonated through the MiG-21's very frame. Yuri, alone in the cockpit, felt a renewed surge of appreciation for the raw power humming beneath him. The stick, polished smooth by countless hours aloft, felt different today, less a mere control, more a direct link to a formidable lineage. He banked sharply, G-forces pinning him to his seat, a visceral testament to the jet's formidable capabilities. He knew this aircraft intimately, its quirks, its thresholds, its defiant spirit honed over hundreds of flights. Yet, the recent encounter with the F-106 had cast everything in a stark new light. The fuselage rivets, once dismissed as simple fasteners, now appeared as countless points of staunch resistance against the relentless wind. The elegant sweep of the delta wings, previously just an aerodynamic marvel, now struck him as a testament to human ingenuity in an age on the cusp of automation. The world was accelerating, and his sleek, potent MiG, a marvel in its own right, served as a crucial bridge between established methods and the unfolding future of aviation. Back on the tarmac, the air thick with the pungent tang of jet fuel and damp earth, Alexei clapped Yuri on the shoulder. Still brooding over that phantom plane, Volkov? Yuri nodded, his gloved hand tracing the cool metal of his MiG's nose cone. No phantom, Alexei. A glimpse of what's coming. Alexei scoffed, pulling off his helmet. A lucky fluke, that's all. No pilot, no true flight. A machine can't sense the air, Yuri. It can't make the decisions that truly matter. Perhaps not yet, Hawk, Yuri countered, a thoughtful furrow deepening his brow. But it flew. It displayed a capacity we hadn't even conceived. What does that signify for us? Alexei shrugged, a dismissive flick of his hand. It means we refine our skills. We outmaneuver their machines. Simple. Yuri gazed upwards, the immense canvas of the sky stretching in endless blue. The setting sun bled streaks of orange and purple across the horizon, a breathtaking spectacle. He perceived not just the beauty, but the profound possibilities. The future wasn't solely about speed, altitude, or agility. It was about deeper comprehension, about melding human instinct with nascent technology. The F-106 wasn't merely a challenge to their current understanding of aerial combat. It was an invitation to an entirely different mode of flight. No, Alexei. Yuri's voice was quiet, yet resolute. It means we must delve deeper. We must decipher its workings, grasp its mechanisms. We cannot simply outmaneuver what we fundamentally misunderstand. The sky is transforming, Hawk, and we must transform with it, or be relegated to history. He watched the fading light, a silent vow taking root in his mind. He would immerse himself in schematics, in theoretical physics, in every fragment of information he could unearth. He would push the boundaries of his own intellect, not solely for the motherland, but for the boundless, exhilarating trajectory of flight itself. The encounter had not diminished his affection for the MiG. Instead, it had vastly expanded his vision beyond it.